I called her cute by mistake, and the alien warrior turned bright red. Aboard the SS Dauntless, a diplomatic vessel so old its ship's log still had an analog backup and an onboard coffee maker that hissed like it had opinions, Jamie Trenner was desperately trying not to vomit into his translation collar. He'd spent the last 3 days reviewing first contact protocols, cultural faux pas, and what not to say to a species that considered blinking aggressively a declaration of war. Unfortunately, "don't panic" had not been one of the listed instructions, and his nervous system had gone rogue the moment the docking sequence began. The ship shuddered as the airlock sealed. A chorus of mechanical clunks echoed through the hull like a drum roll performed by someone with no sense of rhythm. Jamie stood in the reception chamber in his crisp ambassadorial uniform, which managed to be both too tight and oddly flammable, clutching a data pad that he had dropped twice already. He was flanked by the ship's captain, 2 protocol drones hovering silently with judgmental blinking lights, and an AI-operated holographic assistant named Delilah, who'd taken on the unfortunate personality of a retired game show host. "Smile, Jamie," Delilah whispered in his ear, "but not too much. Show teeth, and they might interpret it as an invitation to duel, or mate, or both." "I hate this job," Jamie muttered. "Then you're doing it right," Delilah chirped. The outer airlock hissed open. A wave of pressurized gas rolled in, followed by a rhythmic stomp that suggested ceremonial boots and a lot of confidence. The Hurzari delegation stepped through, towering figures in iridescent armor that shimmered in shifting hues with every motion. They were built like apex predators, sculpted by artists with a grudge against subtlety. At the front strode Commander Liravai. Jamie's breath caught. She was tall, easily over 7 feet, and graceful in a way that made gravity look like a suggestion. Her skin was a soft, silvery gray that caught the light like mist, her long limbs wrapped in armor plated with intricate etchings. But it was her face that stopped him cold. High cheekbones, sharp jawline, eyes the color of violet storms, and long, tapered ears that flicked gently, as if tuning into unseen frequencies. He'd prepared for this. He really had. Cultural immersion sims, etiquette quizzes, hollow scenarios with increasingly sarcastic aliens. But none of it had prepared him for the actual moment, for the scent of ozone and metal, for the heavy silence, for her eyes narrowing slightly as they met his, assessing, cataloging, waiting. He panicked. "You're, kinda cute." The words hung in the air like a glitch in space-time. Time didn't stop so much as pause to raise an eyebrow. Silence fell. One of the protocol drones made a confused beep, then gently hovered backward. Delilah crashed in his ear with a choked, "Oh no, 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 no!" Liravai's ears flicked. Her eyes widened by a millimeter. And then it happened. Her cheeks turned red. Not metaphorical red, not embarrassed blush red. No, her silvery skin flushed with a vivid, unmistakable crimson that spread from her cheeks up to the tips of her ears like a temperature spike on a reactor core. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, glowing like a decorative plasma lamp. Jamie froze. His mouth was open. Words were trying to escape. None of them had passports. I mean, sorry, I just... Like your armor?" he offered, voice cracking like an overcooked polymer. Still no response. Then someone behind Liravai dropped a ceremonial staff. The clatter echoed through the chamber. A smaller Hurzari, aide maybe, muttered something in their language, and Delilah translated in a panicked whisper. "He spoke the vow that is not a vow." "Oh, that's probably fine, right?" Jamie whispered. "It is absolutely not fine," Delilah responded. "You may have just proposed interspecies bonding." Jamie blinked. "I didn't even buy dinner yet." Liravai finally moved, tilting her head. The red flush remained. Her voice, when she spoke, was a melodic blend of thunder and velvet. "You speak boldly, Terran. Rare for one so... soft." "Thank you," Jamie squeaked. The captain cleared his throat, loudly. "Well, why don't we begin the diplomatic..." Liravai raised a hand, silencing the room. Her gaze didn't leave Jamie's. Later, she said, I wish to converse in private. Jamie's brain helpfully shut down. Delilah made a soft, synthetic gasp. You've been chosen. I need a drink, Jamie muttered. You need a lawyer, Delilah replied. As the others filtered out, whispering in tongues, Jamie found himself walking beside the 7-foot-tall warrior who now apparently believed he'd initiated a deeply sacred cultural bond with her. The air around her hummed faintly, as if she carried a field of static energy. Or maybe that was just his anxiety trying to manifest physically. In the corridor, she spoke again, more softly this time. You know not what you've done, do you? No, Jamie admitted, but I'm starting to suspect I might have proposed to you with my face. She stared at him, then, impossibly, smiled. Not a huge smile, just the ghost of one. It changed her whole expression. Cute, she said. Jamie nearly tripped on his own feet. Wait, does that mean you're proposing to me now? Her ears twitched again. Oh, stars, he whispered. We're accidentally married. Behind them, the dragon-shaped security drone that had been silently watching flared its wings and coughed a tiny puff of smoke. It had seen a lot of strange diplomatic incidents in its time, but this one promised to be entertaining. In the grand scheme of intergalactic diplomatic disasters, Jamie Trenner's accidental marriage proposal ranked somewhere between ambassador caught licking a sacred monument and envoy who mistook a planetary queen for a plush toy. Not the worst ever, but certainly bad enough that the SS Dauntless's AI had activated its emergency cringe protocol, flashing soft purple lights and piping soothing whale song through the corridors to stabilize morale. Jamie, unfortunately, was immune to whale song. He sat in his quarters, head in hands, trying to parse the cultural implications of what he'd done. The door chimed, but he ignored it, buried in a tangle of blankets, data pads, and a growing number of snack wrappers. The AI, Delilah, finally overrode the lock. Jamie, she intoned with theatrical drama, you can't hide under an emergency blanket forever. Watch me. It's made of breathable synth wool, designed to reduce heart rate and cortisol, not shame. He peeked out, hair sticking up like he'd been electrocuted by bad decisions. Delilah, I told a 7-foot alien warrior she was cute. Yes. And now half her delegation thinks I've pledged my soul. Also yes. Jamie groaned, flopping back. In Earth culture, that's just flirting. Awkward flirting. Delilah's avatar shimmered to life on the wall, a silver outline of a woman with a martini glass and far too much eyeliner. The Herzari do not flirt, Jamie. They declare. Their language does not even contain a word for maybe. Only yes and no, and prepare for battle. So where does cute fit into that? She consulted an invisible file. Roughly equivalent to, I acknowledge you as a worthy partner, equal in strength and spirit, and seek ritual union under the sight of the stars. Jamie choked. I barely meant I like your cheekbones. Which, for the record, she has registered in her personal data log as a compliment of high honor. There was another chime. This time the door slid open before Jamie could retreat back into his blanket cave. A small, pinkish creature waddled in, round, fluffy, and wearing what could only be described as a bow tie made of plasma ribbon. Oh no, Delilah said. They've started the gift cycle. What gift cycle? Jamie asked, eyeing the creature. The thing let out a high-pitched squeal and leapt into his lap. He flinched. It's a bond fluff, Delilah explained. They gift them during courtship. It will now follow you everywhere, mimic your mood, and possibly explode if neglected emotionally. Explode? Emotionally? Jamie looked down at the creature, which was now purring like a coffee machine. It sneezed, shooting a puff of harmless glitter into the air. I'm going to die from sparkle poisoning, he muttered. Elsewhere on the Dauntless, Lyravi sat in meditation. At least that's what she told her aides. In truth, she was trying to regulate her internal temperature, which had risen dangerously since the human, Jamie, uttered that phrase. Cute. The word echoed in her mind, carrying more gravity than she had expected from such a small being. She had met Terrans before. Curious, unrefined, emotionally chaotic. But none had ever called her anything but commander. None had dared to speak to her as an individual. And yet, His eyes had not been calculating. His voice trembled. There had been no performance, just awkward sincerity. She had found it strangely endearing, dangerously so. Her aide, Vaktor, interrupted with a curt bow. The council requests an update on the bonding. They believe the ceremony must begin within 3 cycles. Liravai did not look up. The bonding was a misunderstanding. They do not care, Vaktor said. They see it as symbolic, a union between our species, strength through affection. Liravai finally opened her eyes. He is not ready. And you? She didn't answer. Later that evening, Jamie found himself being ushered, gently but unmistakably, toward the observation deck, which had been dimmed and scented with something that smelled suspiciously like stardust and anxiety. Liravai waited there, wearing ceremonial robes that shimmered between deep space blue and ember gold, her long ears gently flicking as she turned toward him. You came, she said. I think my bond fluff locked me out of my room. The creature chirped from his shoulder. She gave him what might have been a smile, or a smirk. He couldn't tell. Alien expressions were like trying to read a poem in a hurricane. I owe you explanation, she said. Our culture... We do not use light words. When you called me cute, it was like drawing a blade and placing it at someone's feet. Okay, that's... Wow. Okay. But you did it with no expectation, no ceremony, just honesty. Jamie scratched the back of his neck. I really didn't mean to cause a diplomatic situation. I mean, last week I tried to flirt with someone by complimenting their elbows. This is way above my pay grade. She stepped closer, eyes softening. And yet you've handled it with humor and courage. I've mostly handled it with panic and snacks. Liravai looked down at the bond fluff. It was now imitating Jamie's nervous foot tap with its stubby legs. Your panic is oddly effective, Jamie sighed. So what now? Do we tell everyone it was just a mistake and cancel the ceremony? Or do I start learning your mating dances? There are no dances. Okay, good, because I can't dance. There are combat trials. Jamie blinked. That's worse. But, she tilted her head, there is also conversation. Conversation I can do. They sat beside each other, watching a nebula unfold in slow motion across the viewports, stars like paint strokes on the canvas of space. Silence but comfortable. The bond fluff curled up between them and snored. So, Jamie said after a moment, if I wanted to call you cute again, what would be the safest way? She looked at him, a slow flush creeping up her cheeks again. There is no safe way. Dangerous it is then. Her ears twitched, and she laughed. The stars watched on. Jamie Trenner had been many things in his short, moderately chaotic life. Junior cultural attaché, self-declared snack connoisseur, and the only person to accidentally crash a diplomatic shuttle into a moon-shaped art installation. But until this moment, he had never been described by interstellar news feeds as the chosen mate of crimson valor. The phrase was now trending across 3 galactic networks. He stared at the headline on his holopad, jaw slack, eyes glassy. A small icon on the bottom corner blinked, indicating a rising popularity curve that looked uncomfortably like a heart monitor spiking during cardiac arrest. Delilah, he whispered. This is fine, right? Everything's fine. I'm a symbol of peace now. Delilah, his AI companion and part-time SAS engine, responded with a sympathetic tone laced in sarcasm. Yes, Jamie, peace. The kind of peace that starts wars if you break up with the wrong ears. He blinked. Wait, are you saying if I mess this up, there'll be consequences? Do you want the long list or the illustrated one with emergency evacuation plans? Before Jamie could respond with something appropriately panicked, the bond fluff hopped onto his chest with the weight of a marshmallow and the determination of a furry grenade. It chirped twice, mimicking a Hrzari mating call. Or maybe it was hungry. Either way, it made a wet, flopping noise and rolled off him like a sentient pillow in search of snacks. He sighed and rubbed his temples. I just wanted to say she had nice ears. Meanwhile, Liravai was sparring. In the training bay of the Hrzari quarters, designed with gravitational anomalies to simulate high-stress battlefields, she danced across the air-suspended platforms with a grace born of years in combat. Her weapon, a plasma-forged glaive called Serok, carved through the air in a glowing arc. Training bots closed in, their tactics randomized and erratic, simulating both brute aggression and deceptive feints. She dispatched them efficiently, and yet her ears twitched. A hesitation. The final bot rushed her, and she parried, but not cleanly. It grazed her shoulder. The simulation paused. A red -1 honor point blinked on the training HUD, along with a small digital frown face. Lyravai exhaled. Her aide, Vaktor, approached, voice laced with concern. "You're distracted." "I am not," she replied. "You are. You missed a defensive sweep. You never miss." She remained silent. Vaktor leaned closer, lowering his voice. "The Terran. He confuses you." "I have faced hive minds that screamed across dimensions, Vaktor. I have endured vacuum exposure, psychic blade duels, and a peace conference with the Sulthor brood queens. This human, he is not dangerous. Yet you flush red when he speaks." Lyravai paused. "He is unpredictable. He is soft. He is curious, honest, and he has no idea what he's doing, which makes him a threat." "No," she said slowly. "It makes him rare." Vaktor's ears twitched once. Then he bowed. "The council expects an update on the bond." She nodded, distracted again. Unpredictable, like solar wind, like wildfire in a glass dome. And somehow he'd gotten under her skin. Later that cycle, Jamie found himself in the Xenobotany Bay. He wasn't sure why. Something about wanting to feel grounded. The plants here didn't care if he was a diplomatic icon. They didn't care about awkwardly given compliments or alien cultural missteps. They just photosynthesized in peace, at least until the carnivorous one tried to eat his shoe. "Hey, hey!" he yelped, pulling his foot away. The plant hissed, belched, and then sulked. A voice behind him chuckled. He turned to find Lyravai watching him from the doorway, one brow raised, arms crossed. "You're not very good with flora, are you?" "I once got chased by a sentient bush," Jamie admitted. "It had feelings and a vendetta." She stepped inside, elegant even in her relaxed stance. "You amuse me, Jamie Trenner. I get that a lot, usually right before someone throws something." She came closer, and the light filtering through the glowing moss cast soft shadows across her cheekbones. Her gaze softened, thoughtful. "You've caused a great stir in my people." "I'm really sorry about that." She shook her head. "Don't be. Stirring is not always bad. Stagnation is worse. Do your people have comedy? Humor? Rarely. Our humor tends toward the practical. Falling into a mud pit during battle practice is hilarious. Wordplay? Less so." Jamie smiled. "Well, if you ever want to hear about Earth humor, I have 3 embarrassing stories and a joke about a toaster that may or may not have caused a minor riot." She tilted her head. "Is that a courtship offer?" He nearly swallowed his tongue. "No, I mean, unless you want it to be." "Wait, no, I mean..." She touched his shoulder gently, her voice quiet. "Peace, Jamie." They stood in silence, surrounded by alien plants, breathing rhythmically. "I'm trying," he whispered. "I know." Then she added, "Your bond fluff has attempted to eat the engine lubricant again. It is frothing." "Oh no," Jamie groaned. "He's gonna glitter burp for hours." Lyravai laughed, a rare, rich sound that echoed through the bay like music from another world. And Jamie realized, not for the first time, that maybe this entire insane diplomatic accident wasn't quite the disaster he thought it was. Not yet, anyway. Jamie Trenner was standing in a shimmering corridor made of what could only be described as sentient crystal. If sentient crystal could hum show tunes in 3-part harmony and flicker mood lighting based on his blood pressure. This, he had been informed, was the Hall of Witnessing. "You mean I'm getting married here?" he whispered, eyes darting around the pulsating walls. "It's not a wedding," Delilah corrected him through his comms. "It's a bond affirmation ritual. Totally different. Less vows, more psychic resonance. Still sounds like a wedding with extra steps." He tugged nervously at the ceremonial robes they'd forced on him, glimmering fabric that changed color with his emotional state. It had just shifted from diplomatic beige to a panic-induced fuchsia. From the corner, the bond fluff purred and hiccuped glitter. A high-pitched fanfare blasted through the corridor. Jamie flinched. It's the arrival music, Delilah said calmly. She's coming. He spun on his heel just as Lyravai appeared at the far end of the hall, framed by columns of glowing crystal and the faint scent of starroot incense. She wore formal armor now, lacquered black with subtle violet tracings that shimmered like nebulae. Her glaive was strapped across her back, ceremonial but ever-present, as if her people couldn't imagine an occasion that didn't involve at least the option of combat. Her eyes met his, and Jamie felt like the corridor tilted slightly. "You're glowing," he managed. "It's the armor's plasma mesh," she replied, though her cheeks darkened just slightly. "And you are fuchsia?" "I'm going through a phase." Lyravai moved closer, the subtle weight of silence stretching between them. The Bonfluff bounded up to her and did a small somersault, which for its species was the equivalent of saying, "Please don't murder my dad." "We don't have to go through with this," Jamie blurted. "Not if it's too much pressure, or if you realize that I, in fact, am an idiot who once got stuck in a revolving door for 17 minutes. Her ears twitched. Whether from amusement or alarm, he couldn't say. "You think I'm doing this out of obligation?" "Well, yeah, I mean, your people are watching. There are fireworks waiting to launch. I think someone even scheduled a star whale migration for dramatic effect." "I accepted your words, Jamie, even if they were accidental, and I have learned your intentions were not binding in your culture. Still, I find that I do not wish to step away." He blinked. "You mean you're choosing this?" "Yes," Jamie swallowed. "Even though I once asked if your ship's reactor core had a snooze button?" Her expression softened into a smile that could probably disarm a warship. "Especially because of that." Before he could respond, the hall shifted. Literally. The crystal walls realigned with a harmonious chime, revealing an amphitheater-sized chamber beyond. Delegates from dozens of species were seated in glowing tiers, watching with varying degrees of curiosity, admiration, and popcorn consumption. A floating jellyfish ambassador waved a tentacle. A serpentine diplomat hissed something encouraging in its native clicks. "Oh, good," Jamie muttered. "Nothing like the gentle pressure of a galactic audience to make a guy feel relaxed." A booming voice echoed through the chamber, not from speakers, but directly into everyone's heads. "Begin the witnessing." Two Herzari stepped forward with solemn expressions, and Jamie noticed with some concern, laser-forged drums. They began to beat a low, rhythmic cadence that thudded deep in his chest. Lyravai extended her hand. "Should I kneel?" Jamie whispered. "Or salute? Shake hands? Is there a Herzari fist bump?" "Place your hand on mine," she said. "That is all." He obeyed, palm against hers. A shock, not painful, but deep, like the sensation of standing at the edge of something vast and unknowable, rippled through him. Around them the crystal flared white-blue, and the air thickened with invisible energy. Delilah's voice buzzed in his ear, giddy and just a little alarmed. "Oh, you're sinking. Brainwave compatibility check. Let's hope your dreams aren't too weird." Jamie didn't hear her. He was staring into Lyravai's eyes, which now glowed faintly with resonance. Images flashed in his mind. Her childhood training with blunt glaives, her first space battle at 16, the quiet pain of losing a squad mate in the asteroid trenches of Dross 3. He saw her victories, her regrets, her relentless search for meaning. And then she saw him. Not just the facts, his messy career, his tendency to trip over air molecules, his deep love for dumb movies and instant noodles. She saw his guilt over leaving Earth without saying goodbye to his sister, his secret fear that he wasn't brave, just lucky. Yet through it all, one thing pulsed like a heartbeat between them. Curiosity, not just hers, his too. The resonance faded slowly. They broke contact. Silence fell. Then a soft, high-pitched bing, like someone had just microwaved a soul. "You are witnessed," the voice intoned. "Your bond is acknowledged." The amphitheater burst into polite applause, and one over-enthusiastic slug being blew a party horn. Jamie let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Lyravai leaned in slightly. "You did not faint?" "I consider that a win." "Then let us celebrate." "With battle?" "Number with dumplings." He blinked. "Wait, you eat dumplings?" "I've been researching Terran cuisine." Jamie grinned. You really do care. I bonded with your mind. I now know you dream of dumplings a lot. They walked off the platform, hand in hand, leaving behind the murmuring of dignitaries and the faint sound of the bond fluff trying to eat someone's program brochure. The stars outside shimmered, unimpressed and eternal. But Jamie felt for once that maybe he had done something not accidentally disastrous. Maybe even kind of cute. Jamie Trenner had officially passed from hapless diplomatic intern to galactically acknowledged bondmate of a Herzari warrior, and was now on the short list to receive a ceremonial cloak made from antimatter silk and blessed by a time priest who operated on 17-dimensional math. He was also, as of precisely 3 minutes ago, stuck in an alien gravity well with his pants around his ankles. Delilah? He grunted, suspended upside down by what appeared to be a sentient vine with abandonment issues. This is not a metaphor for my life. I am literally dangling over a bottomless pit and... Wait, I dropped my communicator. I know, Jamie, the AI replied, voice crackling from a speaker embedded in his earpiece. I warned you not to wander into the restricted botanical sector. That sign you ignored said no entry without oxygen reversal gear. I thought it was a spa. It was glowing red and had barbed letters. I thought it was an edgy spa. Just as he was preparing to say something heroic like, "Tell Lyravai I died valiantly wrestling foliage," the vine snapped. Jamie braced for death, or at least a broken tailbone, but instead landed on something springy and uncomfortably warm. A gelatinous, cushion-shaped life form burbled indignantly and ejected him onto solid ground. He sat up, covered in alien goo and shame. I'm fine. My pride's dead, but everything else still functions. A shadow loomed. You smell of crawl moss, came Lyravai's voice, dry as vacuum. That is used in our latrine purification system. Oh, good, Jamie muttered. Just what I needed, romance-enhancing moss. She stood over him, arms crossed, eyes scanning the mess. Her long ears twitched once. An expression he was slowly learning translated to a mix of exasperation and what do I do with this human? You should not be here alone, she said. I was trying to find you something special. A bonding gift, he mumbled, embarrassed. I read that in Herzari culture, rare flora symbolizes connection and allergies. Mostly connection. She tilted her head. You were seeking a token of affection? Yeah, I mean, after all this, I figured I should contribute something other than mild chaos and diplomacy disasters. For a moment she was silent, then unexpectedly she reached down, plucked a single silvery sprout from the crawl moss cluster, and tucked it behind his ear. There, she said, now you are purified. Jamie stared. That's either deeply symbolic or an alien version of nice try. Both, she replied. And yes, there it was again, her cheeks tinted crimson. Later, after several decontamination sprays, one crawl moss induced hallucination involving dancing toaster units, and a quick check-in with the ship's mildly judgmental medbot, Jamie joined Lyravai on the observation deck. Outside, the starscape unfurled like molten glass. Planets wreathed in light, comets slicing silently across dark velvet. In the distance loomed a cosmic phenomenon the Herzari called the Mindrift Spiral, a stellar anomaly where time flowed like syrup and gravitic waves played music only sentient metal could hear. They stood together in companionable quiet. I never expected this, Jamie said finally. To be aboard a flagship bound for diplomatic conclaves? To matter. To anyone who wasn't legally required to tolerate me. Lyravai glanced at him. You are not an easy being to ignore, Jamie Trenner. That sounds like a polite way of saying, you're very loud. And persistent. Also true. And occasionally clever. Occasionally, he gasped, clutching his chest. I have at least 3 clever moments a week. She gave him a sideways smile. Then let us hope the next conclave rewards at least one of them. He winced. Right, the conclave, where I have to sit in front of ambassadors from 86 species and not accidentally insult someone's mother by calling their ceremonial hat spongy. Again, I will be there. You're not allowed to decapitate anyone this time. She shrugged, a disappointing limitation. He laughed and then grew serious. Lyravai, Do your people ever just enjoy peace? Not as an obligation or performance, just quiet, silly peace? She considered it. We train for war. We are built for duty. But sometimes, yes, we find peace in rare moments. Jamie held out his hand. Want to find one with me? She took it. They stood, hand in hand, watching the spiral bend light in ways the laws of physics had politely asked it not to. The Bond fluff, now inexplicably wearing a tiny ceremonial cape, made from lint in defiance, curled up beside them. Jamie turned. Hey, Lyra. Yes? If I call you cute again, would that still mean serious vow of eternal bonding? Or is it more like, you're wearing a nice shirt? Lyra leaned in close, her voice low and dangerous. Do it and find out. Jamie blinked. I'm both terrified and intrigued. You should be. Silence fell between them again, this time comfortable, natural, like two mismatched puzzle pieces that somehow, inexplicably, fit. The stars outside shifted. Somewhere the universe prepared its next absurd twist. And Jamie Trenner, galactic accident, honorary bondmate, emotional disaster in human form, smiled and whispered, I still think she's cute. The galactic summit on Zelzin Prime had everything. Dramatic architecture that defied Euclidean geometry, hors d'oeuvres that tried to escape the tray, and 93 alien species trying to agree on the definition of the word neutral. At the center of this chaos stood Jamie Trenner, wearing his formal diplomatic robe, which today shimmered a dignified navy blue, only occasionally flickering to chartreuse when his anxiety spiked. He adjusted the collar and took a deep breath. No pressure, Delilah whispered in his earpiece. You're only representing Earth in front of a tribunal that once disbanded a planetary monarchy over a bad joke. I said their queen's ceremonial gavel looked like a waffle iron. It was an honest mistake, Jamie whispered back. You also tried to order syrup from a war priest. I thought they were the caterer. Lyra stood beside him in full ambassadorial regalia, a sleeveless obsidian cuirass etched with her family's lineage and a ceremonial plasma dagger at her hip. Her expression was unreadable to most, but Jamie could tell from the slight lift of her right ear that she was secretly amused. You will do well, she said. Jamie stared at the crowd of delegates, tentacled, feathered, crystalline, gaseous, and felt a panic hiccup rising. I'm just a guy from Ohio who once got rejected from a planetary sciences internship because I couldn't explain gravity without using the word falling. You are also the first human to initiate a Herzari bonding ritual by calling someone cute. That has to count for something. Oh, it counts. The translators still think I proposed marriage to your entire security battalion. Lyra stepped closer, just enough that her arm brushed his. You are not the same human who stumbled aboard our cruiser 3 months ago. No. You are more confident now, slightly less clumsy, and statistically 37% more charming. Jamie gave her a look. You ran data on me? I am Herzari. Of course you are. A triple tone sounded through the hall, and the tribunal's lead speaker, a being composed entirely of pulsing orbs and social anxiety, rose from the central dais. Begin diplomatic presentations, it intoned. Jamie's name echoed around the chamber. As he stepped forward, the audience quieted. He activated the holopad in his hand, but the speech he'd written, painstakingly crafted by Earth's diplomatic corps, suddenly felt wrong. Too rehearsed, too sterile. So he did something very un-Earth diplomatic. He winged it. I'm not here to pretend I know everything, he began, or to pretend humans are perfect. I mean, we still put pineapple on pizza and think cargo shorts are acceptable social attire. But we try. We stumble into things, we break stuff. Sometimes we get stuck in diplomatic ceremonies with our robes on, backward. Don't look, it's fine. But we learn. There was a ripple of confused amusement from the assembly. When I arrived here, I thought I was just tagging along on an assignment. I didn't think I belonged. But somewhere between nearly getting vaporized, insulting 6 planetary officials, and calling a battle-hardened alien warrior cute, I found something. A connection. With all of you. With this galaxy. He paused, searching the faces, or face equivalents, before him. We may speak different languages, breathe different atmospheres. Some of you don't even have a concept of left, but we can understand each other, if we're willing to try. Lyravi was watching him, her expression proud. The kind of proud that made him stand up a little straighter. I'm not just here to represent Earth. I'm here because someone let me be part of something bigger, and that someone still scares me a little, but in a good way. He looked back at her and gave the tiniest smile. I may not know all the rules, but I know what matters. Silence. Then a slow, synchronized wave of sound. Clicks, hums, chirps, telepathic pulses rose through the room like an orchestral crescendo. Approval, agreement. The tribunal speaker floated forward. Earth's diplomatic status is hereby confirmed. You are acknowledged. Jamie exhaled, lightheaded. Did I just pass intergalactic diplomacy? You did not combust, Lyravi said softly. That is our baseline for success. Later, on the cruiser's observation deck, they watched the stars stretch out like an invitation. The bond fluff, now fully grown and shaped vaguely like an enthusiastic beanbag with legs, flopped between them, making soft squeaking noises that might have meant, well done, or feed me. Jamie leaned on the railing, thoughtful. So, what now? Lyravi tilted her head. We could visit your planet. You want to meet my mom? She gave you life. She deserves to know who you nearly proposed to by accident. Jamie winced. She's going to love that story. I already do. He turned to her, smiling. Lyra, am I really bonded to you forever? Only if you say it again. I still think you're cute. Her ears flushed red. Then yes. As the cruiser sailed forward into the starfield, Jamie felt it. Not fear, not confusion, not the gnawing sense of being misplaced in a galaxy too big for one guy with anxiety and questionable haircuts. He felt home. He had found something, or rather someone, he hadn't even known he was looking for. And she had long ears, a plasma glaive, and a smile that could short-circuit a galaxy. Perfect. The end.